Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back, friends. You don't belong with the giants. My father bellowed, his voice echoing off the weathered beams of the lobster shack. At 68, he stood like a lighthouse among his dockworker friends, his words a public verdict that cut deeper than the icy Atlantic gusts outside. The laughter that followed was a bitter wind, each snicker a reminder that I, Lena Voss, was a mere footnote in his tale. At 40, a newly promoted Coast Guard captain, my hands still carried the grit of rescue missions in storm-tossed seas. But to him, I was the daughter who never shone bright enough. In that packed shack in Rockport, Maine, he didn't know, none of them did, that his dismissal was about to capsize, and the truth I'd earned would flood the room with a blinding light. I hadn't set foot in Rockport in a decade. The Coast Guard had shaped me, pulling me into churning waters to save lives while waves roared. My father's salt-stained cottage hadn't changed. The same creaky dock, the same iron buoy bell, the same heavy quiet that clung to every corner. I found him carving a driftwood gull, his fingers as steady as the tides. I asked about his retirement party, hopping for a flicker of warmth. "Only the big names get a chair, Lena," he said, eyes fixed on his knife. "Not you." The words stung like salt in a cut, as familiar as my childhood. I simply nodded. "Roger that," and left a gift, a braided rope bracelet my mother once wore before slipping out. I wouldn't linger to be diminished again. My mother, Nora, had been my harbor. She passed when I was 17, her spirit worn thin by years of my father's weight. Before she left, she pressed a scratched compass into my hand. "Its needle is steady," she'd whispered, her voice a final lifeline. "Don't let him shrink you." I clung to that. My father's pride was reserved for my brother, Caleb, the architect whose city designs were his dockside boasts. At dinner, he would recount Caleb's skyscrapers while my mother quietly passed me the warmest bread, her glance saying, "You're enough." At 21, I joined the Coast Guard, diving into storms to pull sailors from death's grip. "Hold on," I'd whisper to a man caught in a riptide, my arms burning as I swam. Those moments forged me into a leader. But in Rockport, I was just Jonas Voss's girl, the one who went off to chase waves. The lobster shack buzzed the night of the party, the air thick with butter and briny steam. I wore my dress uniform, every pin polished, my boots catching the flicker of net-trapped lanterns. I had meant to drop my donation and vanish, but my father stepped forward, his grin sharp for the crowd. "Only the big names get a chair," he announced, his voice booming. "Not you." The room hushed, forks paused, eyes averted. My fingers found the compass in my pocket, its weight steadying me. I turned to leave, but then a voice sliced through the silence. "Captain Voss, over here." Admiral Claire Thornton, her uniform blazing with 2 stars, stood at the door. Her presence stilled the shack like a calmed sea. She took my arm and led me to a makeshift stage. Murmurs spread. My father's jaw tightened. Thornton's voice rang out. "We honor Captain Lena Voss tonight." The title hit the room like a breaker. A weathered sailor tapped his mug in quiet acknowledgement. Thunk, thunk. My father scoffed to his mates. "She's just riding waves." No one laughed. The tide had turned. Thornton spoke again, unveiling the Nora Voss Fund for coastal kids to chase their dreams. My mother's name lit the room, her photo glowing beside a flickering lamp. Caleb leapt up, his voice sharp. "This is Dad's night, Lena, not yours." Whispers stirred. Some sided with him, others watched me, waiting. I gripped my compass, my breath steady. Thornton's stare silenced Caleb, her authority an immovable wall. The room fractured. Some clung to my father's tale, while others leaned into the truth now breaking free. The ceremony surged forward. My father was called to pin my captain's bars. His hands shook as he fastened the silver anchors, muttering, "Didn't expect this." The shack roared with applause, a wave crashing over me. I stood silent. The truth spoke for me. Later, he pulled me aside, his voice low. "Let's not the photo show her solid." I held his gaze. "No, let tonight stand." He stilled, looking small for the first time. Caleb stormed out, wordless. At dawn, I knelt at my mother's grave. The ocean pulled steady. I left her compass by her stone, whispering, I didn't shrink. Driving from Rockport, the harbor sparkled under the sunrise, gulls soaring free. Revenge wasn't loud. It was owning my story, stepping beyond his shadow and letting the truth sail.
Thanks for watching PastQuest. If you enjoyed the journey into history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing stories from the past. See you in the next quest.